So here's the deal. I got a bunch of sockets in a crescent socket set. They all came in a blow molded case, which blow molded cases are absolutely useless. They either hold the socket way too hard or the sockets don't stay in and they just fall out. So I want to make a wooden socket rail. I'm going to start by using spade bits to drill a bunch of holes on the scraps piece of wood. This will allow me to index the sockets to the right size bit. It's just easier and faster to try and fit the socket into the right size hole and then match it with the bit than to try and hold the bit up against a socket and eyeball what size will be best. I have a bunch of socket rails from Harbor Freight, the cheap ones you can pick up for $1. I don't really like those either, which is another reason why I'm switching to this. They kind of work fine in like a tool bag. They're a compact way to store, but they don't work well for anything like a tool chest or cabinet or cart with drawers where you want to be like able to just pull your socket or hold it next to you. They can be kind of finicky to get the socket off and put it back on. And I don't really like the little sliding mechanisms on it. It is a cheap one from Harbor Freight, so I guess that's my problem. But I figured I'd make one out of wood. So once I've got all my pilot holes drilled, I'm gonna mark how deep I want each hole to be with a piece of painter's tape. This will help it to be consistent across all of the holes so they're an even depth and the sockets have an even rise out of the hole. Another reason why I wanted to make this socket holder is just to be a bit more of a custom way to store the sockets. I know which ones I have and which ones I use, so I can organize how I want. So next step is laying out the sockets. Going to go ahead and I already got one line of them drilled out and laid out, but I'm going to go ahead and line up all of the sockets left that I want to put on here and see where I want them to go. Then I'm going to take pencil and mark the center point or the midpoint, the middle of each of the sockets on the end of each line. This will allow me to come back with a ruler and draw a straight line for where my socket line should be. This will keep the line nice and straight once I drill the holes, so that I won't be weaving around with all the sockets, some of them drilled in strange places. This is a bit of a prototype. A couple things in hindsight I do differently now. One of them is using a thinner piece of wood and just drilling all the way through it. This would give a consistent depth and a flatter base. The spade bits don't have like a flat tip on them, they're kind of rounded. Also, unless you have a drill press, you're never going to be perfectly straight. This turned out pretty good, but some of them are a little crooked and not really worth trying to straighten out. Also, I just changed the layout of what's on which set. I have a bunch more sockets that I want to add or make these wooden trays for. But this currently has the 1/4 inch drive and the standard 3/8 drive. I think I might try and separate that out some or put more on one tray. I haven't really decided. For drilling the holes, it's best to use an impact driver. A couple of reasons. One of them is the spade bits have the hex head on them, so they fit straight into the impact driver. And it's easy to change out because you're changing sizes a lot. Second reason is it's less likely to break your material when you're drilling the hole with an impact driver because of the the way the impact will pause, it won't rip out material as much, and how it transfers the torque. It's intermittent, which I guess is kind of the same thing. It's also easier on your hand because if it grabs, it's not going to tweak your wrist because it's intermittent torquing a bit. To space these holes, so I line up the tip of the bit on the line, which gives me a straight line across for all the sockets. And then I lay it flat on the line. This gives me the ability to see how far I want to place it from the last hole, going with about an 1/8 inch of spacing, maybe 3/16. I was worried a bit that the wood would chip out if I went too close, but this seemed to be like a good distance. I didn't have any chipping. Actually, all the holes came out quite nicely. You could use a spacer if you wanted, but I was able to keep it pretty consistent, and I thought the end result looked good. I didn't end up applying any sort of finish to this or sanding it down or routering over the edges to round them. Like I said, it's kind of a prototype. I plan to go back and make different ones, but as the Germans say, temporary things are the ones that last the longest, so we'll see about that. But this is going to go in a wooden tool cart I made. It's based off of a Harbor Freight 5-drawer tool cart. It's going to keep a nice consistent wood theme across it. Thanks for watching.